10th of the 2nd, 2026. And we are back again like hack. And then why? Because there is a gazillion F1 centric threads at which we need to pull. Tiliodo, Izzy, Suchiya-san. It's going to get techie then techie things over the next half an hour or so. We've got to talk about Aston Martin, for I am hearing contradictory reports. Some are saying that that's a rocket ship. Some mention no names: Adrian Newey, Alonso, Lance Stroll and Lawrence Stroll. The rhetoric coming out from their mouths is everything apart from that car being quick. It is managing for expectations, and I think that means something. I think we need to unpick for that. So too, we'll talk about potential Mercedes legal action, because Toto, the boy who cried wolf, hasn't been having it. He's been waiting for this moment for as near as makes no difference 4 years since they dropped the ball at the altar of Zero Pod in 2022. Now it's his time, and nobody, not Aston, not Honda, not Scuderia Ferrari, not Frederick Vasseur, none of the aforementioned, nor Red Bull Ford are going to take it away from him, lest they want to see him in court. And it gets more salacious than that, I promise you. This one is very, very, very techy. In the first instance, Lando Norris has talked about the cars, about McLaren, and what he hopes from it in 2026. Roll the clip.
I mean, it certainly feels different to all the ones that I've raced. So it's definitely more, pre-2017, 18. So not really like I've driven, but more like almost like F2 in some ways, in terms of more power, a bit more undergripped, which is going to make it more of a challenge behind the wheel, which is exciting. It's our job to drive whatever we get driven in the end of the day.
I sure hope it's not like our 2017 car.
It definitely won't be. So,
Zach Brown, do not change your job so you would not make it as a comedian. Saying in retort to Lando Norris's soliloquy that the cars drive a little bit like 2017 F2 sort of thing, that Zach Brown hopes that it isn't a 2017 McLaren, because that was dog doo-doo. So I mean, spare me this comedic sleight of hand, Zach Brown. My ribs are splitting, can you tell? David Brent of F1. Listen, I'm not a big Zach Brown fan, but we need to give him credit, right? For him and they built themselves a god tier car, which indeed enabled the likes of Lando and Oscar Piastri to challenge for a championship of the drivers' variety. John Kay, you're an absolute legend. Let me show you this though, because there was somebody else. We'll talk about Alonso and Aston Martin shortly, but there's somebody else who disagreed with Alonso. The rhetoric thus far has been the brand new rules and the regs: active aero, boost, overtake, straight line mode, partial mode, that will lead itself to some unconventional overtakes, that it's in the hands of the driver. Therefore, Fernando Alonso, apparently, per the boys and girls at We Are The Race, disagreed. He said, no chance, mate. In the first couple of races, the guys and girls, the god tier engineers that so epitomise ingenuity in F1, are going to cotton on to the line of least resistance, that there will always be a way to deploy the energy, to tinker with the modes. There will be an optimum solution, a modus operandi per se, if indeed you wish to win races and championships. And they will all, like the design philosophy in 2026, they will all end up converging on the modus operandi, the apex predator, as always happens in Formula One, right? That's Fernando Alonso saying that. Oh, and by the way, John, you're an absolute legend. I appreciate you ad infinitum. If you're a brand new member, get yourself over to the community tab, get yourself in the Discord shortly hereafter. Antonelli yeeted it. Bloody Nora, doesn't look great, that. I mean, just go to show, chat, if Antonelli as an F1 driver is crashing, and Lando Norris not too long before him in an F40 in Monaco, allegedly, or his dad. I mean, you got to be careful on the roads, eh? This is the Aesop's fable. But ultimately, the upshot is this. Kimi Antonelli was okay and he was spotted at the track today. Let me tell you somebody else who doesn't yeet it into the barrier too often. He has a name, and his name is Maximilian Verstappen. Brand new documentary coming out soon. This is the trailer for it. Roll the clip.
Once you have achieved everything that you wanted to achieve in Formula One, you have a bit more freedom to look into other things. You have the possibility to transition from sim racing into the real car. You show all the things that I like to see. The team was a bit more nervous, the sim driver in the car.
I had never driven a car with a roof before.
Look
how slow I am on the straight.
We will be watching, I tell you that much. That looks epic. And again, it sounds like they're chronicling Max Verstappen's his side mission. That is, of course, to get a sim racer into F1 proper. Mention no names, Chris Lillo. Let me know in the chat whether you think this is a real thing. People have been saying for the longest time, grizzled F1 vets and part-time casuals, that sim racing absolutely has a part to play in the growth story, the conveyor belt of development that is feeder formula and young, budding, hungry F1 drivers. But the extent of that is where people draw the line. Some say, yeah, listen, enjoy your time on the sim racer. Do you know what I mean? Get yourself a cheeky fan attack and enjoy it, that it bears no relevance to the real. You don't get the feel. You can't test the sensitivity of your internal gyroscope, nor can you manage to manipulate the car in and on around the limits of adhesion. You can't do that in the sim. Some, on the other hand, are saying that there will be no more F1 drivers who are not seasoned sim racer pros, proper ones. Mention no names. Lando spends all his time in front of the Fanatec. Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, George Russell, they're all seasoned pros. Try them on an F1 2025 and see how you get along. I would put forth my supposition this way. I also don't think there will be any more F1 drivers who haven't gotten their 10,000 hours, not just in on karts and feed the formula, but on the sim. It's important now. Oh, and by the way, if we're having a conversation, we need to have a conversation about Aston Martin, don't we? Because a gazillion people are saying different things. I don't know what's going on with them, chat. I'll be honest with you. Some people, cannabis, you will absolutely. Amazon Prime me thinks. I realised that LH was at his best when he had Pagani. Worst handling going. TWM says Easy G. It's true. It's tiresome, honestly. Oh, Sir Kim Card Hamilton. Oh no, Izzy, what are we doing here? Surely if Toto believes the Mercedes engine is perfectly legal, then he shouldn't have an issue with the FIA monitoring their engine at race temperatures. Wayne will come to it, I promise you. This is a big story, right? So go on and let me show you this. Aston Martin are all over the shop. The context is this. Adrian Newey and the AMR26 rocked up late to private testing a couple of weeks ago at Barcelona. They only got a day and a half in. That doesn't bode well. However, if you know anything about Adrian Newey, he flies very close to the sun. Icarus settings as far as logistical parameters. He was always going to spend more time at the factory. He wants to dial in some sort of inherent advantage at the altar of design synchronicity. That is the modus operandi of Adrian Newey, the last airbirder. Is now, has always been. Mention no names. 92, 93, the Williams of Nigel Mansell and Alain Prost, dominant cars, each and every single one. 99 and 98, Hakkinen both. That's an Adrian Newey car as well. Mention no names. Sebastian Vettel, 2010 through 2013. Adrian Newey cars also. God tier, the blow off exhaust, etc. Mention, lest we forget, Maximilian Verstappen's car between 21, 22, 23 and 24 all have the Adrian Newey heritage. If indeed there were a guarantee of F1 success in the form of an aerodynamicist, it would have a name, and its name would be Adrian Newey. And I say all of that if only to say this, that there is a lot of speculation that he's gone and done what Adrian Newey does, which is to build a rocket ship. It looked crazy, right, in the carbon fibre. It looked like something off of Megatron. Do you know what I mean? Transformers settings, the suspension at the front and the rear, super ambitious both. It looked techier than techie things. Must be a rocket ship then, surely. Well, you know already going into 2026 that people are saying that this is a power unit rule and reg set, that if Honda haven't done what they're supposed to do, that we're going to be 2014 Red Bull when they started to lose. No, Tyler, you're a legend. The Wolff feeling the villain. What I'm telling you, he's going hard, and I do not blame him. So here's the problem for Adrian Newey. In 2026, if Honda haven't done the rocket ship thing, if they don't have the assignment, they haven't gotten the assignment, then Houston, Aston Martin have themselves a problem. No matter how god tier, how brilliant the aero is on the AMR 26, ultimately it will all be for nothing. If Honda are, as per the rumour, their power units overweight and underpowered, especially against the backdrop of Mercedes, who were going gangbusters, leveraging and weaponizing every single design philosophy loophole possible. Mention no names, compression ratio. And here's why I think Aston Martin might be in a bit of trouble. Ladies and gentlemen of the F1 jury, there's been a lot of chat over the last 24 hours about Andy Cowell. In the first instance, you'll recall Andy Cowell was the team principal now. And then when Adrian Newey came in, he said, I'll have some of that, mate. He stole Andy Cowell's team principal lunch money with impunity. Now, some say Adrian Newey's not a team principal, but nominally, he needs to be able to do what he needs to do to build a racing car. So you need that leverage that comes with team principal. What did they do? They moved Andy Cowell. And Andy Cowell is no slouch. I'll have you know, 2014 Mercedes, boys and girls from Brackley and Brixworth. Who do you think headed up that split turbo hybrid program? Andy Cowell, of course. 2014, did Mercedes lose a championship of the constructors or drivers variety between 14 and 22, 21 even? Well, 2021, you know what happened. But 2020, for Pete's sake, they were dominant. And who else, if not Andy Cowell, is responsible for that? Again, a power unit, rule and reg set. So the fact Andy Cowell is at any slouch, if past his prologue, and the way that they just move him on. What are we doing here? First he was team principal and now he's not. At last count, I heard Lawrence Stroll et al. Saying that Andy Cowell was going to be put alongside Honda to handhold them, make sure that they're doing their job. Well, on the back of all the chatter that we've heard coming out of HRC, Koji Watanabe is saying that, listen, we're struggling. It's not been smooth sailing. I know other teams are struggling too, but we definitely are. We're not dead yet. But ... the rhetoric here is important. So on the back of what Koji Watanabe said, you will understand why they put Andy Cowell alongside HRC to manage and monitor for the continuous improvement of that Honda PU. However, the rumour is this, chat. The rumour is that they've gotten rid of Andy Cowell. What? Is chaos. To which Aston Martin responded the following. Go on, let me show you Thomas Mayer in the first instance. Andy Cowell is understood to be departing, says Thomas Mayer, one of the go-toest F1 journos, by the way, if integrity and truth is a thing. Thomas says, Andy Cowell is understood to be departing Aston Martin this year following the role change within his team from team principal demoted to HRC senior business partner. Do you know what I mean? Handhold Honda in their project. And then that was rebutted shortly thereafter by Aston Martin, who said, no, nothing to see here. They released an official statement saying, no, Andy Cowell's not going anywhere. He's our guy. And then you see this chat. You know, and sometimes when they start giving the vote of no confidence, if this is the Premier League, you know that the sack is never ever far from that. Course you would give him the vote of confidence only to sack him the next day. As soon as Aston Martin said that, F1 Twitter fingers got dialing, only to find out on Company's House that he was once upon a time a director when he was team principal. He'd since resigned from that role in 31st of December 2025. Oh, the humanity. Listen, I think that means the writing's on the wall. If past his prologue and you know anything about C-suite exec level bods, why would Andy Cowell leave a director role to sit there and handhold Honda? Full stop, new paragraph. I don't think so. Andy Cowell will be sitting there looking at this, a woman scorned. He's not long for that role, not long for that team. He will leave them, chat. And here's why that's important, because again, so many people saying that Aston Martin have built themselves a rocket ship, a god tier vehicle ready to win a championship in 2026. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Of course, they had their official, in inverted commas, official livery launch yesterday, and some said that the car looked good. Some weren't too hot on it. I will tell you this much, that's a mule car. Looked nothing like the car that was going around Barcelona the other day. However, this is the upshot, the big picture story from that. A lot of people have been looking into the rhetoric, the language used, because that's got to count for something, right? Going into the season 2026, given the big rule and reg change, that this is a paradigm shift as far as F1 and the direction in which it will go. Adrian Newey, of course, is pole position to take advantage of that, but the rhetoric and his body language, so to Alonso's and Stroll's, has to mean something. I want to double click on this. I'm going to read out some quotes and you tell me whether these lot are being negative. This was these guys yesterday. I'm going to read out some quotes: Newey, Alonso, Lance Stroll and Lawrence. This is Newey this time round. The unique thing this year is that the rate of development, quote, is going to be very, very high for everyone because of the new regulations, of the complexity of the power units as well. This is Alonso talking here. I mean, way to manage expectations. They don't sound like a positive outfit that's looking to win races early on. This is managing expectations 101, isn't it, there from Fernando Alonso? Here's Newey talking that they want to build something extraordinary this is Lawrence Stroll, excuse me. But that what they're keen to do in 2026 is build something extraordinary and remain unwavering in their ambitions. We're talking about resilience already, like you understand that there's a gazillion problems over which you will need to come. Here's another quote. We've attempted to build, okay, so this is Newey talking. We've attempted to build something that we hope, pertinent word, will have quite a lot of development potential. Huh? But you out here looking to win races? You're Adrian Newey, for Pete's sake. What else would you be here for, mate? Why else would you come back if not to win races? You're talking about development potential. Anyway, you know what? Maybe that's a nothing bug. He continues. What you want to try to avoid is a car that comes out quite optimised within its window but lacks a lot of development potential. Looking to win races. They're looking to develop something. This is all future tense, right? They're not ready to go. This isn't something that's going to come out the box and be chasing down George and Antonelli in that W17. No chance. Not if this rhetoric's anything to go by. Newey continues. We've tried to do the opposite, which is why we've really focused on the fundamentals, put our effort into those, knowing that some of the appendages, wings, bodyworks, things that can be changed in the season will hopefully yield some development potential. I'm not really too concerned therefore about Bahrain. I think this is Alonso talking now. This is negative. It just smacks of negativity. You know, when you haven't done your homework and you're trying to make excuses to the teacher ahead of time. Oh, I was running late. My mum spilled something. Come on. Like, that's what they sound like. Sounds like they've dropped the ball massively, or at the very least aren't expecting any success out the box in Australia. This is Alonso talking, I think. He says, so I'm not really too concerned about Bahrain or the first few races. What? Okay, so it stands to reason. Since Adrian Newey's not long, March is when he picked up a pen and started designing the car. And the lead time isn't long enough. That's why everybody that said that this was going to be a god tier car out the box, Adrian Newey. I mean, heroes only exist in fairy tales, for Pete's sake. Not expecting anything at Bahrain or the first couple of races, says Fernando Alonso, because I think the championship and having a good or bad season is going to play a little bit more into the second half of the season than the first half. They're going to be chat. I'm telling you, this is I am short Aston Martin PLC. I don't think they're going to be anywhere early on. As sexy as that car looks, if you don't have the bloody power unit and Adrian doesn't have enough runway and or lead time, I think Aston Martin Houston, we have a problem. I think this year continues. I want to say this is Newey. I think this year there's likely to be a huge amount of development. We've attempted to build something that we hope will have quite a lot of development potential. And to Honda's situation, Adrian Newey says, I only know the information. I know this is Alonso, excuse me. I only know the information that you know. The messages that they were saying that we will be a little bit behind the rest. But this is a long game, and I'm sure that even if we start a little bit behind, there is plenty of time to catch up. The second part of the season is going to be more important than... I'm telling you what, negativity. Maybe I've been sold a dummy. Maybe they are doing the PR Sandbad thing. You know what I mean? Say that it's 8 or 9 when you know it's 12. Like maybe that's what they're doing. But everything that's coming out from them is negativity. And I think Alonso Broadly is a truth sayer. I think he always shoots straight. So too Adrian Newey. I don't think they tell us this, be talking like this. The rhetoric would sound and look and feel like this if their situation weren't so bad coming out the box. I think Houston, they have themselves a problem. It's going to get techie, I'm telling you, chat. I am here for it. Buonasera is that I missed the super chat. I apologise. You're a legend, Sate Connor. I appreciate you. Buonasera. Buonasera. I need to sort out my pronunciation. Do you know what I mean? It's too much. I appreciate you, Sate Connor. You're a legend. The Wolff filling the villain role. Yeah, no, we'll come on to Toto. But I just wanted to nail Aston Martin in the first instance. For all those who've been saying that Aston Martin, and again, a lot of money's coming in for Fernando Alonso, right? If you even check out his odds today, you can barely get 10 to 1. If I'm being honest, 9 to 1. So the money's still coming in on Alonso. In the no money potentially, or Abbots of Unreason, Spanish Fernando Alonso fanatics. You tell me. Go on then. This is important. You tell me in the chat whether you think there's going to be a poll coming out soon. I'm keen to see which one of you guys think that Aston Martin have built themselves a rocket ship. Let me know in the chat. Oh, and by the way, we've got to talk about Mercedes, haven't we? Because that's the pick to click if we're talking narratives and topics. Let me show you this in the first instance, because a lot's been made about Mercedes in this compression ratio. And some people are saying that they've cheated. Some, mention no names, Toto the boy who cries wolf, are saying that this is F1. You expect it to do. If they rewrite the rules and there's some advantage to be gained, then I'm going to gain it. Let me show you this though. This is an FIA bod whose name evades me, talking about Mercedes and the potential compression rates that they're weaponising going into 2026.
They are very clever and always pushing for an advantage. Some have found ways to potentially increase it when the engine is running hot, and that is the discussion we're having now. I mean, we've spent a lot of time with Jan discussing how we solve those issues, and I think our intention is, of course, to solve them for the start of the season.
Confirmed, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. It was speculation up till now, but that's an official FIA bod confirming that some have found the way to extend the compression ratios. Now, you wouldn't put a quantum nor an integer on it, but that's important. That's the first official that I've heard confirm it proper. So you could take it to the bank then that it will be Mercedes who are running 18 to 1, which means a couple different things. An engine, greater maximal output, greater efficiency therefore, which means by extension that they'll be able to run themselves less fuel, which means by extension that their car at the start of the race will be lighter than all and sundry. That, ladies and gentlemen of the F1 jury, is chaos. They say anywhere between 10 and 15 brake horsepower, 3 to 4 tenths. Mileage may vary on that. I think they might have undercooked this when you bear all those things, take all those things into consideration. And to that point, you think Toto, the boy who cried wolf, is looking to give up on that? Now, they're having meetings. There were 2 meetings last week. So there was the Power Unit Committee one, PUAC, that happened on Thursday. Monday was another one. They need to change this because F1 is at risk of seeing itself a 1992 type season. Nigel Mansell settings, dominance. Remember Sebastian Vettel 2010 through 13 when everybody turned off their TVs. Do you remember Michael Schumacher 2000 to 2004? Again, dominant settings. That won't do anything for F1's share price, nor therefore their market capitalisation. If we have ourselves King George Russell of Kingsley in Norfolk, a gazillion miles down the road from everybody else, weaponising compression ratios with a rocket ship of a W17. And that's why all the teams are like, no, we're not having this. Jonathan Wheatley of Audi, no, this is against the rules. Absolutely not. Red Bull, Ford, well, we can't do it reliably, so neither can they. Give us the paper and let us sign it. You got to change the rules. Not at race 6. You got to change them now. That's what all and sundry, everybody not with a Mercedes power unit, is saying. And I still don't know. Listen, I don't want myself a monotonous season, but it feels disingenuous, wrong somehow to penalise Mercedes for their own ingenuity. Are we watching F1? Or is this tiddlywinks? What are we doing? Is this the participation Olympics where everybody gets a prize for making mistakes? No, shouldn't be like that. I guess what I'm trying to say is that there is a hybrid. There is a portion in the Venn diagram. There needs to be a solution. I don't know when they do it and I don't know what they do, but it's going to get techie. And to that point, Toto's like, you changed the rules, mate, and I will see you in court for a couple of different reasons. There's an article come out of Motorsport Italy that's since been taken down that alludes to the fact that pre-season, Toto, as you would expect, billion-dollar mindset, had been liaising with the FIA, making sure that they check in real time his homework. You know what, FIA, this is the sensible thing to do, right? As Ross Brawn did with the double diffuser and Charlie Whiting way back in the day. You know what, we've got this thing, FIA, compression ratios. The rules say that you're only going to check them for compliance at ambient temperatures when they're in the pits. What does this mean, FIA? Does this mean that if we're running at 18-1 on track, but we pass the test and it looks and feels like 16-1 in the pits, are we okay? Are we good to go? That's the conversation that Toto, the boy who cried wolf, has had with the FIA officials. Here's what Motorsport Italy said earlier, and again, since been taken down. So integrity is a thing, and truth is truth. Maybe they've fact checked and decided, but I think it's important that I bring this to the table. This reads, per F1oversteer.com, but now report from Motorsport Italy reveals a new detail. The FIA's head of powertrain, Vincent Peremi, however you pronounce that, personally approved the Mercedes solution. So what are we doing here? If Toto and Co have gone to the FIA and said, listen, we've got this thing, can we use it? And they've said yes. What you can't do, FIA, in good faith, is now about fact. You can't just U-turn this thing. That's not how these things work, FIA. And therefore, that's why Toto is spitting venom. That's why he's looking at all the other teams, mention no names, Red Bull, Ford, Scuderia, Ferrari, et al., saying you need to fix your fudging car. Don't look at me because you haven't done what you're supposed to do in the off-season, which is, of course, take the rules to the nth degree, bend and break them if need be. And that's why Toto is fuming. He's saying that he could take formal action. Oversteer.com, F1oversteer.com, excuse me, he's saying if the FIA close that loophole with less than 30 days left till we get ourselves an Australian FP1. If they close the loophole that was previously open, previously rubber stamped by this FIA bod, Vincent Peremi. If they close the loophole, then it's like, what are you? Like, you told me that we were good to go. What are you talking about? No doubt in Toto, mention no names, Netflix, he's got the printout. Do you know what I mean? This is unacceptable. F1 Oversteer writes, there have been suggestions that Mercedes could take formal action if the FIA closes the loophole on the back of all of the complaints of the Wheatleys and the Binottos and the Frederick Vasseurs of this world, and the Lauren Meckies. Get well soon, Lauren Meckies, as well, going through a routine procedure, so I hear. With the start of the new season less than a month away, it's unclear how easy it would be for the team of Brackley and Brixworth to modify their engine. Well, I can answer that question off the top of the dome. This is just common sense. Why modify the engine with 30 days unless they've got one spare? And plus, lest we forget, it's not like Mercedes are just running their own PUs in their car. They supply Williams, they supply Alpine, and they supply McLaren. That's why I feel they're almost too big to fail at this point. I don't know, chat. Listen, I think we have a big faff of a problem. They've dropped the ball massively, the FIA, yet again, as they always bloody do. Who put that bloody clause in the rules and regs at ambient temperatures? Why? Leave it as it was. I mean, if it's 16-1, it's 16-1 in absolute terms. I have it printed out. Is it? What a champion! If a rubber bank and don't get busted, is it illegal? If a tree falls down in a forest and makes no noise and nobody sees it, did it really fall down? This is a Schrodinger's cat quantum mechanics dilemma, isn't it? Patrick, it's all about the language in rules. FIA should be more precise. 1000% Tilioro. They need to take out the bloody stanza. Oh, the humanity indeed, EasyG. We're getting techie. Let the other teams catch it. Do you think so? I'm going to put a poll out. Should they cut off the balls of Mercedes? Should they? Is that I understand. I want competition in 2026 as much as the next person. I really, really do. But this just feels like the wrong way to go about it. Oh, that's really, really clever, Mercedes. Yeah, we said that you could do it once upon a time, but we've changed our minds. The other teams have lobbied us. Do you know what I mean? They've got their elbows out and we're bending the knee. No, This is chaos. But wait, if Mercedes PU has an advantage, why not all the customer teams? No, all the customer teams will also have an advantage. They will also have an advantage. But games and music, here's the point. If you're talking about, you've heard me, I keep barking this design synchronicity thing, and it is an Adrian Newey. It's the way that Adrian Newey has learned to design his cars. All the suspension and the chassis and the aero working almost in synchronicity as an automotive orchestra. That's the way that you want to do it, especially in a brand new rule and reg set, especially ground effect era previously. That's the way that you want to go about it. And who better to do that? You remember Ron Dennis said that you can't win anything as a customer team. Okay, so McLaren are the exception that proved the rule the last 2 years. But if you're going to place your chips on anyone going into 2026, Mercedes, having designed the PU and therefore able to design the rest of the car, the gearbox and the aero around the dimensions and the nuance that they baked into that PU, it's hard to make a case again. And again, my crystal ball is as murky as the next person's, but it's hard to make a case against. The only reason for me to put Mercedes on a leash is if it benefits Max Verstappen. Listen, I tell you what, I think this is almost inevitable now. You know that Max goes to. I can't say any other. Genuinely, I think the writing's on the. Now, listen, there were a gazillion things that can happen before a wheel is even turned in Australia in a couple of weeks' time. But I just feel like it's closer than ever. The fact that Toto's wielded his influence to get the NLS1 fixture and schedule changed to accommodate Max Verstappen's desire to do the 24 hours of the 24 hours of Nürburgring, excuse me. I just think it's inevitable. That is serious. And again, if we're talking about managing key stakeholder relationships and expectations, I think Toto's paid the binder, you know. I think Max Verstappen, I don't know. And now that the Aston Martin doesn't sound like it's as quick as many had hoped, where do you think Max is going to go next year? It's going to get taken. FI is strict in that. Do you think Toto would supply McCrumble with an identical? I think they have to, Nando. I think back in the day when it was, I think in the early 90s, I think they were allowed to supply, engine suppliers were allowed to supply customer teams with like different specs of engine. I don't think they're allowed to anymore. I think it needs to be homologated. However, speaking of homologation, March the 1st, I just don't. Listen, Max goes nowhere. Do you think so, Ollie? Max won't stay in that Red Bull if he's got the clause this year. Outside, not first or second in the driver's standing at the summer break, which I'm not sure he will be, and then he can null and void. Ola Kalunius has told us, I don't care if it leads to a team dominating. FIA need to learn their lesson, says Daniel. Don't hate it, mate. They should have real drivers and engineers look over the rules and make the rules. Touche, Daniel. I echo those sentiments, mate. George is gonzo. I think so too, mate. Kimmy beats George. Graham, we will be talking about that. I'm telling you. We will be talking about that. This has Lewis Hamilton 07 versus Fernando Alonso written all over it for me. For me, I'm not saying that George will lose, but I think Antonelli has it in him. I think he's got a couple of tricks up his sleeve. And this happens always with rookies, right? The first couple of seasons, they develop at a rate that's almost anomalous. Like normally, like an Alonso at 400,000 years old is like, do you know what I mean? Can you teach an old dog new tricks? He might learn a couple of extra bits and bobs every single season. But Antonelli, first season last year, second season this year, the rate at which that dude's going to improve is going to be like parabolic. So I think George might be a tad surprised, just as was Lando Norris at Oscar Piastri's. I mean, it's the second season, isn't it? Second season syndrome. I don't know. Oscar's second season, I mean, he looked like a bloody brand new driver. That's what happens. I think these guys, especially these sim racing bods who've got 10,000 hours, they learn a lot very quickly. TWM FP1 is indeed coming fast. George has a lot of pressure on him. Does he, Easy G? Does he? To dominate Kimi? A little bit. But I suppose if they built themselves a rocket ship, then he's only got a bit. It's a weird one of these. It is like I mean, Prost only had to beat Damo. You know what I mean? The car's so dominant that you've only got to beat your teammate and the championship's yours. A little bit like 88, 89. I suppose in 88, Senna only had to beat Prost and Prost only had to beat Senna in 89. But again, different apples and oranges a little bit because Senna and Prost represent very different entities to Kimi Antonelli. Loyalty means something to Max. No, I agree. So I expect him to finish his contract with Red Bull lifelong. There is a Mark Hughes book. As we round third, let me tell you, this is important. If you want to know who Max Verstappen is, there's a brilliant book called Unleash the Lion. I think I've said that right. There's a brilliant book by Mark Hughes anyway. And I think it's called Unleash the Lion. Or Unleashed. What am I talking about here? Basically, in the book, Mark Hughes, I'm gonna find the title here so I don't misrepresent. It's quite important. We only deal in facts over here. Do you know what I mean? Truth, value, and objectivity are not things that we will sacrifice at the altar of falsehoods. Not now, not ever. So Mark Hughes, in this book, he writes and refers to Max. And again, Mark Hughes isn't a bad journey if you're going to try and understand who Max is and his contractual circumstance. So Mark Hughes in this book writes, there we go. Forget me. I misspeak. It's called Unstoppable: The Ultimate Biography of three-time then F1 World Champion Max Verstappen. In that book, Mark Hughes says this, that Jos has always seen Max as a gun for hire. What he means by that is that Jos is desperate to make sure that Max's career doesn't fall foul of the same hurdles that Jos did. Bad decisions, wrong team, wrong time, bad driver pairings. Again, you can't have a Michael Schumacher on the other side of the grid on the other side of the grid, if indeed you wish to win races and championships. So you won't have it with his son. No, I hate it. Nostradamus isn't for everyone. Do you know what I mean? Polemic for days, but I think he's onto something there. Like, there are only so many years that you get to spend in F1. Life and sports lifespan, more pertinently, they're both finite resources, the latter infinitely more than the former, and therein lies the problem. So if you're Nostradamus and Raymond Vermeulen, Team Verstappen are acutely aware, because of Nostradamus and his experience, that there are only so many years on Max Verstappen's career block. Like, you just, do you know what I mean? So why would you waste them? Do you know, why would you do a Fernando Alonso and make the right decision at the wrong time? You need to be in the fastest car. And if you are Max Verstappen and you have the leverage and you have your pick of the litter, therefore, then why wouldn't you? Wait around this year. If you have to write off this year to make sure that for the next 2 or 3 or 4 years you can enjoy the best car, just as Seb did 2010 to 2013, as Michael did 2000 to 2004, as Lewis did 2014 through to 2021, some say, then it would be nonsense not to. It'd be foolhardy, churlish even. So I think that's where we're headed, chat. I think F1 moves more inevitably towards that eventuality by the second, especially given what we know about compression ratios and the things that Mercedes have done in the background. I'm telling you, I've got some nice videos on Matt's voyage to F1. I need to go away and watch them. I need to go and do a bit of research. But your boy hasn't had a lot of time at the moment because it's techie over here. What the F is going on? All the news about Mercedes engine that's legal. Can anybody please tell me what is true and what's not? Did you know, Piranha, are you late to the party? Have you not been watching the past, like... the past 45 minutes? Rewind, chap. I'm not going to bore everybody else in the chat, Piranha, who turned up on time. Punctuality is a thing, some say. You guys have been legends, one and all. I appreciate each and every single one of you to the moon and back. Between now and next time, prosecution rest. No further questions. You wanna?